Thank you, guys. It's an honor to be here, and it is really interesting. All of the speeches that I heard today, and they all fit in many ways into what I have to say tonight. I'll start with a street wisdom. How I chose my speech. Well, I was thinking about what I should talk about, and I bumped into a friend, and I was like, "Hey, I've been invited by TEDx," and he says, "Who's TEDx?" And to which I answered naturally, "He's the half Bulgarian cousin of Malcolm X," you know. So that led me to speak about inspiring a faithless society. That is a speech that I chose, and well, I'll just start off before I move to the next slide and really engage with my speech. Seeing as I'm the last speaker, I can take my time a little bit more, and I'll tell you that life is complex. We are in very little control of all of the different processes that govern our world. And this is what you learn in international relations. This is what I studied. And I'll start with a little story to give you an example, a story that I came up with when I was 13. And it goes like this. I mean, you might picture life in the following metaphor. We're all sheep, and, you know, we are all following a herd, and we all want to, you know, kind of grow up and get out of that herd, you know? And that's kind of simplistic, really, because life is a lot more complex than that, because what really happens is that you have a lot of sheep, and a majority of them are stupid, all right? And then you have some sheep which are stupider than the rest, all right? And they're so stupid, they don't actually realize they're stupider, and they get the funny idea that they're smarter, all right? And the other sheep are too stupid to realize that these guys are stupider. And one day, these guys decide to go off to a forest, and I was like, oh, great idea. We'll follow these guys. They're smart. They go to the forest, and they all get eaten by wolves. And it's a sad story of our life, you know, a sad sort of reality smash in your face that, you know, you're not really in control of reality. So kudos on that. That's very true. I agree with you. But what we have that is very intimate, that defines us, that leads us in our life, is that we are dreamers. We're all dreamers. Every single one of us. And all of us have you know, we wake up in the morning thinking about, like, you know, being next to a beautiful girl, somewhere in the Bahamas with an ice cold beer, medicinal beer maybe, I don't know. You know, or you know, you think about a great success, or the amazing car that you'd buy, and you'd go and show off on the seaside with it, whatever. But we all dream. We all dream. And my dream is to have a society where those things are easy to achieve, as easy as it can be. You know, I want to live in a place where you have employment, where you have fast-growing, striving business, innovation, pioneering, good education, good services, just laws, where your rights are defended. You know, if somebody does something nasty to you, you can say, that's wrong, and everybody will say, that's wrong, you did a bad thing. And you continue on, and you're happy, you know, and you're respected by your neighbors, and you respect your neighbors, and people are capable of working together, you know. It's like you walk out of your home, and it's like, I had this great idea, you tell your neighbor said, well, I have this friend, and everybody kind of works together, founds a company, and they go on and they produce something innovative, cool, creative, and great. And this is a very nice dream, I think. I think all of you would like that dream, don't you? It's good, isn't it? Yeah. So now there's things that gets in the way of that social dream, and then that's when you live in a faithless society. My home is I live kind of in a faithless society. I get the feeling, because when I go out of my house, and I was like, I have this great idea. I was like, good luck, mate. For whatever, you know, good luck, mate. I want to change the political system and get these people to, you know, change something in their community. It's like, good luck, mate. Nobody's going to listen to you. People don't care about. They're selfish. You know, life is nasty, brutish, and sure, there are a lot of naysayers. So a faithless society disallows you. It really does. It kind of tries to crush you. It disallows you from following your dream, from making it happen. It demotivates you. It crushes you. It tries to get you to forget your dream. And there's what causes this, you know. There's this, I mean, it's not like faithless society just is somewhere. It didn't just randomly happen like that. It's the processes of the world. It's how things, interact globally. And I'm talking about the most expensive thing in the world, the first factor. Do you guys, I bet you if I asked you right now what the most expensive thing in the world is, you probably wouldn't guess. You might go for petrol, information, I don't know, natural resources, time. No, it's war. War is the most expensive thing in the world. Nothing is more expensive than war, because war deals in that which is absolutely priceless. It deals with life. And that's why it costs trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars or euros or whatever. The second thing, which is actually the greatest purveyor of war, that has the greatest power and always fights with society to crush it, next to war, is another animal of its own, which is its greatest purveyor. It's politics. Politics, yes. This is what I deal with. It's what I do in life, that thing. That horrible thing that's in the corner and that you shouldn't touch because it's dirty, Politics. Politics not only controls state resources, it manages, the whole state, international relations is engaged with, it collects taxes from us, it tries to impose a law. It actually controls the other thing, which is absolutely priceless to us, next to life, and it's the quality of life. Politics controls the quality of life. It is responsible for providing it. And it guides us. So, if you have these two, and then you have society, and if politics and war are left unchecked, then they will just crush society. And when they crush society, it becomes faithless. And we live in a nasty place. It's not nice. So, what keeps war and politics at bay? What do we do to actually, make them serve a purpose, Use war for security, to make the world a safer place in one way or another. Defend people, defend things, from terrorists, if you will. And politics, what keeps politics at bay? What makes politics serve us to our benefit, And it's society. It's every single one of you. And it's how much faith you have. And it's how much faith you have to a particular set of tools, of values, which check politics. And I don't just mean government, I mean everything that's related to politics. I mean political parties. For example, in Bulgaria, I know that people want to have constant checks and accountability and transparency on the government and on administrations and European projects, but they've completely forgotten about political parties, which are completely irregulated. and they're the biggest, they're the biggest channel of sovereignty. They carry sovereignty from the people to the state, the political party, so they're incredibly important and they're kind of forgotten. So we need to have checks on all of that by every single one of you, and those checks are expressed in Republican values, which are very popular nowadays, which you all know, and which you must all take to heart in one way or another. We're talking about rule of law. When it's checked, you must protest, you must go out, you must say your bit and you say that is not okay. You have accountability, you have mandated government, you have elections, you have checks and balances, you have separation of powers. And if you want to live in a nice place, you must have faith in these things. You must have faith in in those instruments, and push always for them to be implemented, and protest when they're neglected. So now we're going to have a look at the faithless society, because if we presume that war and politics have crushed the society, have shrugged it, and society has become faithless, and it's inadequate, and it cannot keep a political system from oppressing it in a particular way, let's have a look at our subject, let's have a look at the faithless society and what it is like and how it has become faithless. What is the system? Because in order to react to the system, we need to look at what has created man faithless. Why does he not follow his dreams anymore? Why has he given up? Why has he become a naysayer and a pessimist? Cataclysms in politics and in war, certain developments, they lead to injustices. That's why they're dangerous. They lead to what we consider to be unjust. And when we're surrounded by injustices, we naturally think there's no point to being good. because obviously you don't get rewarded for it. You know, you're being good and there's a lot of injustice. Guy is good over there, he gets killed. Another guy is good over there, he gets incarcerated because he's not corrupt. That's unjust, you know. So he said there's no point, you know. You naturally get this feeling when you're surrounded by these things. It's worse for the kids, for the generations that grow up in such a place. Because they don't grow up with the mentality that they could share moral values. And in order to justify their passivity, you know, this is the next step. They become subjective. They rearrange their morals and they reprioritize their understandings of good and bad in order to accept their own passivity in front of themselves. And in doing so, you kind of get lost in common values. They kind of start disappearing because subjectivism is just that. You know, morals are personal to every single person. We leave them at that. You know, so you can't really share in the common values. So what happens is that society is rendered incapable of synergy. And synergy is when, you know, a sum of individuals, you have them on the one side, not working together, and then you have them working together on the other side. Synergy means that these guys can produce this much independently, individually, the sum of their work, and these guys can produce, say, twice or three times as much because they're working together. And if you don't have a sharing of common values, in other words, you don't share faith in between each other, and you can't have faith between each other, your society is incapable of cultivating synergy, and therefore incapable of checking politics and war. Now, naturally, this creates a vacuum, and naturally, man always has to have a criteria for life, because he always has to have the feeling that he's progressing, always. So, how does he do it? Well, if the morals are out of the way, and if the values are out of the place, you know, you have this vacuum, and what comes in? It's the simplest thing, you know, 2 is better than 1. Materialism. Materialism kicks in. You start thinking 2 is better than 1, so having 2 cars is better than 1 car. Having 2 cars that are as expensive as 1 car is even better than having 2 cars that are cheap. You know, and that's how you start grading success. And that's how, you know, you start living a life in a faithless society where you try to accumulate as many material things, and that's how you try to guide yourself. It's either that new criteria, which is okay, to be quite frank. There's nothing wrong with that ambition. There's nothing wrong with wanting material things and wanting to progress. The only thing is that in a faithless society, where you don't have common values and common morals, the ones that get the most money are the ones committing the injustices that we're surrounded by. So these guys get turned into role models, you know, because we're material, we want money, we want to progress, we don't have our values, that's our criteria. And the ones committing the injustices, the gangsters of sorts, or just the corrupt few, you know, they turn into our role models. And quite often, faithless societies actually say, wow, this guy made it. What a great guy, you know? And this guy could be like a really, really nasty oligarch that's probably involved with, I don't know, murders maybe, or, you know, lots of corruption, God knows what. And then they get turned into role models. Of course, they pay a lot of money for media support and so on and so forth. And then there's the funny side of the values vacuum, is that people lose a criteria on how to judge good and bad, so they start coming up with these like kind of things that are taken out of mysticism, like zodiac signs. You know, it's very popular with faithless society. It's like I'm going to judge people by their zodiac sign. This is how I'm going to realize whether they're good or bad. And yeah, they have like 11 star signs, which are very nice, and they have one, which is my star sign, which is absolutely shit. Which they add, every bad thing in the world is this zodiac, you know, we're gonna hate that guy, you know. And obviously that's very silly, because if you take the world population, you have 6 billion people, divided by 12 months, that's 500 million. So 500 million people apparently have the same characteristics. So it's very silly, you know, but people looked at that. They looked at astrology, they looked at those things, because they try to find anything to have a criteria, how to live their lives, how to judge, and so on and so forth. And how do we overcome that? What's the light at the end of the tunnel? The light at the end of the tunnel when you are living in a faithless society is that it doesn't last. It cannot last forever. Because, again, the world always changes. The processes that govern the world realign in different ways, on the one hand. And what they create is, when different processes cross, they create a place where people can identify a dream, a common social dream, a dream of a society where they are put in front of a choice and they have to make a choice and they link up their own personal dreams to that greater social dream, to that dream of a society. And this is what happened in Ukraine. Right now, the different processes, international processes, put Ukrainian people before a choice. Do you want to be in the European Union? Do you want to be part of the Western world? Or do you want to be part of another world? Do you want to be part of a free world? Or where you believe that your rights will be defended in the European Union? There's a lot of solidarity going on, a lot of money sharing, and do you want to be part of that and be part of a huge free market? Or do you want to be something else? And those processes, that question that was put before the Ukrainian people, they had to make a decision. So in that, they linked up, all of the people at the Maidan, linked up their personal dreams to the dream of a European society that they want to belong to. So in other words, they built a campfire of dreams. And when you build a campfire of dreams, it is huge. And nothing can stop the positive changes that get made from that. Even if ultimately, formally, it fails, nothing can actually stop. Because I'll give you an example. You could say that after the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, that the Orange Revolution essentially failed because, Yanukovych got to power, for example, No, it didn't. Because obviously it created a community that was ready to rise up again to fight for the rights that they had accumulated back then. And they checked politics then. That's what they did. The society said, this is a political decision that we're not going to allow to be taken like this without our regard. Our regard is not this. And they reacted very strongly and they fought for it. And now it's a very difficult situation. We don't know how it's going to turn out, but we know that there is a community there that is strong and fights for itself, and it's fighting with politics and war so that they may not control the whole country. Okay, so how do we inspire? How do we inspire people then? We have to inspire people that are in our community. And we have faith. That's the first thing. And what you must know about faith is that it's not a panacea. It's not a cure-all. It's not going to solve your problems, but you must have it. It's a long-term thing. And having faith in people is a long-term thing. And you must look within yourself and say, do I have faith in my own dream? Don't the people around me also have faith in their own dream? And in that particular case, do we have a common goal that would allow for both of our dreams to coexist? And when you find your answer to that question, you will have faith. And you can move forward. The second thing is learning. And there's a big emphasis on that because, if you want to succeed in what we do, and if we're surrounded by a faithless society, we must be prepared for a lot of pressure, for a lot of hits, for a lot of lack of ambition and lack of motivation and pessimism to be thrown at us. So what we must do, we must know more than everybody else around us, because that builds up your authority. People look up to you and say, wow, this guy knows things. You must know about strategy. You must know about operations, about tactics. You must know about contingency planning. That's making plans for when something bad happens, having a ready plan. Advanced planning, waiting for a particular situation to come and then to know how to act. And plenty of other things. You must know of the power of synergy, how to manage group work, how to manage horizontal group work, because this is how you must manage it. And a lot more things that you could read up on, which I'm not going to get into right now, because that would be literally a separate talk. And institutionalize, which is where I've gotten to right now. And some other people among the speakers have gotten to that point as well, institutionalizing. In a faithless society, in order to defeat and turn around the subjectivism, and in order to turn around the pessimism of people, and in order to, we must institutionalize the opposite. In other words, if you have a role model who has achieved his material success through injustices, and on the other hand, you have somebody who has maybe achieved a little bit less, but is very well off, and he's rich and he's done it in a moral and just way, you must make institutions that are going to lift that guy here to my left and say, well done, this is the guy. And he did it much better. You know, this guy might be in danger because perhaps he's been corrupt, and in the future, you don't know, he could go to jail, he might be exiled from the country. And this guy is just as rich, and he's not going to have any problems for the rest of his life because he was honest. So you applaud that guy. You know, you institutionalize that. You know, you get his know-how, which is what I'm doing with my project, is you get his know-how on how he did it, and you try to share it for free and disperse it for everybody to have, to see. So that if anybody's interested in what he did, they can do it. So this is for value promoting and marketing institutions. This is what I'm doing. Cultural diversification. Another thing that I'm doing. What you get in faithless society is a monolithic culture. Because generally you get monopolies there as well. You get the fact that there is a lot of subjectivism makes culture generally at a very basic level, because it's impossible to find something that is likable to everybody since everybody's subjective. So you just do something incredibly primitive and basic, you know. And that becomes the popular music of the place. You know what I'm talking about, some of you. No, I think there's some smiles around. Quite similar to, you know, I shouldn't say any names, not on. This is going to go on YouTube. People are going to hate me if I say some names. But yeah, cultural diversification. In order to destroy the role model and that monolithic, you have to get people to be open-minded. And the best way to do that, I believe, is to create in different art spheres new things, constantly work for them, create them. They have to run in parallel with these other institutions, and we have to support these other institutions. And this is my current project, which is going on, which is the NPO that was mentioned beforehand, the non-profit organization, is kinematograph.bg. We're doing shows in different cities in Sofia, including in Blagoevgrad, once a week, for short movies. You go to a bar instead of to the cinema, you get your cold beer, you sit down, and you watch 10 short movies from all over the world that have been selected. And you come out with something new, with something global. You know, the world is in a way closer to you. You get out of your bubble, and you're ready. It opens your mind. And checking institutions must be supported always. These are the NGOs that you get around that, you know, follow up on every detail that the government says, that the government does, that the politicians do, that big figures do, and you know, these must be supported at every turn. They must not be left alone, and you must never ever think, oh, these guys are doing that job, so I don't have to do it. You know, you must always support them, because they could just as easily be crushed by pessimism, and also lack of funding. Yeah. A few inspiring tactics for you. Do I have time to say those very quickly? Yes? All right. A few inspiring tactics. Speak of the power of synergy. If you look at group work management, how to manage groups, and how to create synergy, and you look at the group that you're working with, and if they're very individualist, if they're very subjectivists, you know, then you speak of the power of synergy. You manage them horizontally, and you say, this is what you can achieve if you work together. You know, and you speak of the power of self-fulfilling prophecies. The majority of failures among groups that work together in a faithless society is that they predict that they will fail. So it just happens, naturally. This is what happens. Linking up the dreams, I already spoke about that. You know, if you're going to get a few people together and get them to work together in order to inspire people in a society that is faithless, get to know them, get to know their dreams, and see how you can link them up to a society in which they would live those hypothetical lives of theirs. If you do that, you know, you can always unite them on the basis of what they have in common once they start fighting. And when they fight, you have to let them fight it off, and then bring up that common cause, the one thing that unites them, on which none of them can say no. And you can always point out, you fought with this guy, but he wants the same thing as you. And you have to stand together and have your differences, and don't let that stop you. It's a good thing. So that's it. And the rest is work and wait for the processes to realign, and then an opportunity at some point would open itself to you where you can go out and have to make a choice as a society, to say something, to check politics or to check something military. And you can do that. And when it comes, you have to go out. And the rest of the time, you work to inspire people. Do it in whatever you've chosen for your life, apply those things in your life. Try to have faith. Try to stop people being pessimists, naysayers, and so on and so forth. Thank you.